Shots in the Dark contains graphic depictions of events that may not be suitable for all listeners. We encourage all of our listeners to be open-minded and engage in dialogue with us through any of our social media accounts or email. This whole episode's gonna be me
outfit changing,
taking my pants off and putting them back on.
Hot.
Hi.
Hi.
And welcome to Shots in the Dark. I'm Ty.
I'm Whitney. I have some things to tell you because I'm really excited about them, and I apparently keep forgetting to tell you about them. They've been saved in my bookmarks for forever.
Okay.
I found out there's a bunch of art spaces that are in churches, which are called churches, but with an X instead of a C.
Huh.
So I thought that was neat. I found this article because I thought it was so funny, and I'm just going to read it to you because it's very short and it's very funny.
Okay.
It is filed under Oops, which is... It's just great. It just makes me feel really happy. It is from Gizmodo.com. Washington, PA Police Chief J.R. Blythe described it as the most grisly murder scene in his 35 years of law enforcement. Blood splattered everywhere, a bit of scalp. It took his team hours to realize it was all fake. A fire that had started in the basement of the George Washington Hotel led to the discovery of a bloody room where detectives worked 8 hours of overtime before realizing it was actually a movie set. Specifically, the leftover set of Corey Haim's slasher New Terminal Hotel, shot in 2008. The room had been preserved in its gory state according to the hotel owner, Kirk Piros, in case the production company had wanted to do reshoots. So funny.
They didn't think to talk to the people at the hotel about it before they were like, what's all this murder stuff doing here?
Well, there was a fire, and they probably assumed that they weren't going to be able to help until they gathered evidence from it. I think it's amazing.
I mean, it's real funny. By the way, so last night when I met Katrina's dude man, I had a really good time telling him how much I love the Boston accent. And I told him your Johnny Bag of Donuts story. Mm-hmm. And then I told him about the guy at the Witch Dungeon Museum who was all
Yours
like...
was way better.
You see her? She's a witch. And they're gonna get her. Oh, but she's not really a witch. But they're gonna get her. Yeah.
I just really wish that you had gotten an actual recording of that.
Oh my gosh, me too. I think I would make it my ringtone. I would just listen to it every day for the rest of my life.
To be fair, I'd make it my ringtone, and I don't ever listen to my ringtones. I would turn on my ringer to listen to that ringtone. See, mine was just funny because that dude was pitching a movie that has been made several thousand times to the company I used to work for.
In the pedestrian mall?
You know, Johnny Bag of Donuts just walking down the pedestrian mall. Also, what is a Johnny Bag of Donuts?
I love that term now, though.
Yeah, I do too.
He's just like an average Joe, you know?
It became so much the last time that I was in Boston, it became so much a part of my speech that the people I was staying in a hotel room were waiting for me to say it while I was sleeping so they could murder me. They were very mad. I don't know if you ever knew about this, but the man who was sentenced to be hanged by the neck until dead, he intentionally chose that punishment and then gained about 450 pounds while he was in prison so that his lawyer could argue that there is cruel and unusual punishment because for him to be hanged, it would completely dislodge his head from his neck.
Oh my gosh.
And he won for obvious reasons because it's true. It would definitely dislodge his head from his neck. It's amazing. I
mean, yeah, I'm not rooting for him, but
play the system.
It's smart, yeah. Well, we should take our shots too.
Yeah, I think
don't
so.
You think?
Yes.
Yeah. Delicate clinks. So you've got true crime this week.
Yeah, mine's really there's a lot of things to mine, I think.
You've mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah. He and I have been having vague conversations about how strange there is so little information on it besides what's kind of happening now. Mm-hmm. And the second part of it is I have a case number that I cannot get. It just keeps pulling up that the case was solved. It's not pulling up any court records, which is infuriating because I'm like, I have the key. Just let me find the lock. What are you doing? I do have a miniature trigger warning. There is rape and obviously murder in this one. We're going to gloss over it real quick, but just to understand it, it is an element to this. So for you who might be listening, who is a little bit more sensitive to that, 5 seconds in, and then we're done with that pretty much forever. All right, so I'm going to tell you about Patricia Beard.
Nice last name. Okay, I'm down.
Here's another thing. There are 1,000 of hers. I can't even find her on Find a Grave because it's like some 72-year-old woman who died in Southern Illinois. Patricia Beard was living in a studio apartment in the 500 block of East 11th Avenue in Denver, Colorado, in what was reported to be a home for at-risk individuals. A lot of what I've read has apparently sealed some of the records because they didn't want to incriminate anyone else that may have been living in this area at the time.
Okay.
Everything, as always, without straight court documents, has to be hearsay. So if we're wrong on this, please let us know. We like to know things. shotsofdarkpodcast@gmail.com.
So it was a home for at-risk individuals?
Yeah. Here's where I think that she may have come to live there. She was a 32-year-old woman who may have been differently abled, according to some reports. There are a lot of things that say that she was mentally handicapped. I have found nothing to back this up or to disprove it completely. So I don't know.
You have to go off of what you've read about it,
Yeah, which is unfortunate. I thought this one was very interesting, and that's why I chose it, even though there's less hard fact besides what will come later.
I mean, if that is the case, that's an interesting element to add into it.
She was well loved by her family members and supported by an extended family, and when her family had not heard from her in a few days, they started becoming concerned. Eventually, one of her family members had sent another family member to her first floor apartment, where they discovered Patricia's body. Patricia's body was found inside her apartment, laying face up on her bed, partially clothed with her pink robe open, her blue underwear around her right ankle, her slip pushed up above her genital area, and a used tampon in the room nearby. So obviously we know that there's probably some element there.
Yeah.
Also, stop it. Leave all the things alone.
Right? Garbage human.
Garbage human. An autopsy would reveal that a laceration was found on Beard's left breast, a bone fracture, and extensive hemorrhage along her neck, seeming to think that she was strangled.
Okay.
More likely than not, because of the hemorrhaging, because of what obviously comes with the hemorrhaging, which, bruising and stuff like that, it means that she was strangled to death because obviously post-mortem, no bruising.
Yeah.
The bone fracture around her neck is pretty indicative of...
That's what I was going to ask you. So, I mean, she was strangled so intensely that this person broke her neck?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Oh, God.
Officers on the scene had noted that the murderer had possibly used the window, even possibly using a brick on the outside of the building as a foothold to get through. Forensics had gone through the apartment. Forensics would later take a swab of both her vagina and mouth to test for semen and had done a full rape kit to acquire any evidence that may have helped them to solve the case. Both tested positive for sperm. And what I've read, here's the thing. They found a lot of evidence in the apartment, and I had read later that they had found their suspect inside of her apartment. But once again, reading from out of the normal for me is 25 to 40-ish sources. Every single one of them say almost the same thing because it seems to be a kind of tiny case, which is sad.
They found him, returning to the scene of the crime?
They found him in the apartment later, I guess, just popping in there. Dude, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, there's no way for us to really know, but I feel like a lot of killers...
there's a lot of ways to really know, but if the case file that I have could not acquire all this information...
Don't a lot of killers return to the scene of the crime to, visit it?
No, I think it's a fallacy. It's mostly for people who are serial killers that are specifically placing mementos there. Or arsonists. Arsonists do that sometimes, where if they rebuild something in the place that they had built. They had no actual matches at the time. It's 1981. Nobody was doing a massive amount of DNA testing, and unless your stuff was already in the system, they weren't able to actually pin anything on you. Even though there was a mass amount of evidence, it didn't actually lead to an arrest on anyone committing the crime for over 31 years.
What?
Yes. This is why I thought it was amazing, because it's a super cold case.
Yeah.
And they got him because he's an idiot. Here's the thing. The case went cold for 31 years. They weren't able to convict anyone for her murder. They weren't able to find enough evidence to figure out what was happening. But cool thing, the Colorado Department of Corrections and the Cold Case DNA Project had collaborated to start solving some of these crimes. And this was the 100th cold case that was solved.
That's so cool.
It's very cool.
It's so cool.
Which, thank you, DNA. Hey, how about we find everyone else? I'm really excited.
I love when cold cases get solved.
31 years later, Hector Bencomo-Hinojos, the idiot box, had gotten arrested for something and was being held in a federal prison in Pennsylvania. Our new penal system apparently requires you to give DNA when you're in prison. Not sure if that's all across the board or just Pennsylvania. If you know, let us know, because we don't. And I tried looking it up, and it did not come back with any results.
They require you to give DNA?
Yes.
That's great.
To see if you're linked to other crimes, which is amazing, especially in federal prisons.
Also, too, though, we need to have one solid across-the-board database for fingerprints and one solid across-the-board database for DNA.
Oh, totally agreed.
Because it sucks so much that, like, a police department can go and look at fingerprints or DNA, and it doesn't match up because they're not looking in the right database.
Agreed.
Unfortunate.
Totally agreed. Because he had given his DNA, because he was required to do so, they were able to match it to the brand new chapter of Amazing Humans that we're trying to solve cold cases, not only in Denver or Colorado. So while he was being held in the Pennsylvania prison and they had acquired his DNA, they checked against a lot of cold cases. He lived in Denver for about 15 years, beginning in 1977, a year before he had married.
Someone married him?
Yep.
Oh, wait, that's right. We did talk about his wife, yeah.
When they had maybe found, and I say maybe because his DNA was still being in test, so they were testing all the swabs that they had taken from the crime scene, he was waiting to be extradited, and the detective at the time went looking for, we'll say, character witnesses or people that may know more now that they know that this guy might be affiliated with the crime, and that detective found his wife.
Oh.
When the detective had tracked down his wife, she had painted him as a physically abusive asshole who would slap her in the face if she didn't have his clothes ironed by the time he got home. She also identified at least 6 occasions where he had come home with what she thought might be stolen goods, and then had suggested that he'd been involved in many burglaries during the time that her and his relationship was taking place, as well as the time that Patricia Beard was murdered.
Oh, no, hon. Oh, no. I would have waited for his ass to get home. I would have slapped him across the face with my damn iron.
Right.
I'm just finishing up some ironing.
Yeah.
What now, Hector? What now?
I mean, he needed it.
Yeah, bastard.
So he was extradited from the Pennsylvania prison that he was in because obviously everything that they got from his DNA checked out against the swabs that they had taken from Patricia Beard. He was taken into questioning. Mm-hmm. He tried to play dumb. He said he never knew her and had said that he didn't recognize a photo of Patricia Beard.
Okay.
That he had never had sex with an African-American woman. And that clearly she was, and he couldn't have possibly, right? But he also used his, what I was reading was a heavy accent to pretend that he didn't understand the line of questioning.
Oh, which could be problematic.
Also, not super hard to find people that speak other languages to question
absolutely.
That person. Hinojos would act clueless. They asked Hector if he had ever received a blowjob or oral sex from a woman. He said yes, from his wife. He was asked if he had ever had oral sex with a black woman or the woman in the photo, which was a photo of Patricia Beard. The answer said no. He continued to act like he didn't understand, which is why I knew you're going to get irritated. Yeah. He said he never understood that they were talking about murder. He also didn't understand what a murderer was. They explained to Hector that it was a person that had killed another person. He said that he didn't know what they were talking about. He continued to sit there and say, no, I don't know that person. Absolutely do not understand what you're saying. No, oral sex? Who does that? Oh, wait, my wife does. No, never. Never this woman, though. Nah. Mm.
So he can, like, answer all these other questions, but he can't seem to comprehend.
Immediately, it's like selective hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you just want to hear what you hear. Meanwhile, this guy is hearing things and then going, oh, I can't understand you. Selective language barrier.
Yeah. That's kind of a big deal, though. In the last episode, how we were talking about Moses, when the sheriff showed up, he asked him, he said, do you understand why you're here? Do you understand why you're being held in this room? They have to ask you that stuff.
Yeah. Quote, the interview was then concluded. He had pled guilty to a second-degree murder.
I'm mad. You're right. I'm mad.
That was the trade-off, apparently, for him to plead guilty. He also had pled to second-degree kidnapping.
What? But it was probably first-degree murder, but he took, like, second-degree so that he'd get, like, a better sentence.
Yeah, like, but he's almost 70 now.
Okay.
So when he was 55, he had pled guilty on second-degree murder and 1 count of first-degree kidnapping. He was obviously easily found. They didn't have to go on a manhunt for him. He was already in prison for what I cannot find records of. Once again, have a case number, cannot find the court documents that would back up any of this information, which infuriates me, but I thought it was interesting enough because, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't speak English.